everyone, I'm Chris, and in this video we're going to learn how to make the hammered embroidered earrings. It is a bead embroidered project here, and I know some people might be still intimidated a little bit by bead embroidery, so I tried to make this a little simple, and I kind of call it the bumper bowling of bead embroidery, because all we're going to do is go around edges with some peyote stitch. So we'll have our little bumpers there to help us guide until you feel more comfortable with doing bead embroidery. So what I used is I have some Bead Tech embroidery felt that I used that we're actually going to stitch through. And then I have the Ultra Backer, which is actually on the back side. After we do all of our thread stuff, we will then glue this to the back here, and then use our Delicas around the edge just to secure it there. And with these two, I just cut out 1-inch circles of each of them. In this case, I know that's all that we need is just the 1-inch circle. So we're going to start with the thicker material, which is the felt, and then we will use the backer later. So then we also need a 10mm cabochon, and then the hammered ring, which is a 20mm hammered ring, some 15-0s, Delicas, 2 different colors of 11-0s, our wire guards, some ear wires, and some E6000 glue in order to secure our cabochon and our hammered ring here. So what you're going to do, move that out of the way, we're going to take our circle, we're going to take our hammered ring, and then you're going to put a little bit of glue on the back of the hammered ring here, and then you're going to place it in the middle of your 1-inch circle, and then you're going to put a little bit of glue on the back of your cabochon and place that in the center of the circle there. I'm going to suggest, if you happen to get some glue on the outside here, is to just take your awl and kind of try to scrape it away a little bit. When you have that, it's a little challenging to get the needle through the felt and the glue. So if you can, just kind of scrape that off there. And then I would let this sit, I would say overnight if you can. Then it won't move around on you. So I'll be back. I'm going to take off what we don't need right now, and I'm going to wait for my glue to dry.
Do you want to know how to save over 50% on jewelry making kits? With the monthly kit subscription, you'll get 3 new kits for as little as $49.99. Remember, that's for 3 kits. That's a savings of up to $70 per box, plus you get free domestic shipping. Visit PotomacBeads.com/subscribe or click on the link in the description.
Now that the glue has dried, we're going to start by putting our Delicas between the hammered round and the cabochon to start our peyote stitch there. I'm using a size 10 needle, which helps get through the backing of the felt. If later on, when you add your 15-0s, you need to change down to a size 12, that's okay. By then, we will not be going through the backing, so it won't bend the needle. I'm using size 6 in smoke. I'd probably use green, but I think it's easier for you to see the smoke. So I'm going to flip over, and in the back, I'm going to secure my thread by just grabbing a little bit of that backing material, pulling it there, then I'm going to cross over, and that'll be my thread. This will all be covered up by our backing anyway with glue, so we won't see it, and that will secure it nicely. Everyone has their own way of doing it, so you'll figure out which one works best for you. So now I'm going to come up through between the cabochon and the hammered ring. And I'm going to add 4 Delicas. 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people like to do it in groups of 2. I just happen to like to do it in a group of 4 in this particular project. So I'm going to lay them flat. I'm going to find where the end is. Then I'm going to poke my needle down. And then pull that through. Now I'm going to try to come up between beads 2 and 3. And then I'm going to go through the last 2 Delicas that I added. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to add 4 Delicas. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lay them down, find the end, poke through. And then try to come up between beads 2 and 3 that I just added. And then go through the last 2 beads. So you'll continue that all the way around. We want an even number of Delica beads, and it's much better to have a little bit of a space between the beads than them being too tight, because then we're going to peyote around the top of them. So go ahead and finish that and I'll meet you back. I ended up with 6 sets of 4 of the Delica beads to go around, and they fit beautifully. So I'm on this last set of 4, and I'm going to go through just the first bead that I added in this round, and then I'm going to go down through the bottom. Then I'm going to come back up through, like I did before, the second and third bead of the last 4 that I just added. And then I'll go through just a couple of them, because then we're going to start our peyote stitch with the 11-ohs. Oh, there, we'll just go through a couple of those. All right. So now I'm going to pick up our first color of 11-ohs for this. And if you know peyote stitch, we put 1 bead on. We're going to skip over one of the Delicas, go through the next Delica, we're going to pick up another 11-oh. We're going to skip over the next Delica, go through the one after that, pick up another 11-oh, skip over Delica, go through the next Delica, and then you're going to continue this all the way around, and then you'll step up, and then we'll start adding our 15-ohs. I'm going to add my last 11-oh in this round. So I'll go through the Delica, and then in order to step up, I'll go through the first 11-oh that I added. Now we're going to go through and add our 15-ohs around here, which will help secure the cabochon in here. If you feel like you need to switch your needle over to a 12, go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to pick up a 15-oh and just go between each of these 11-ohs. 15-oh through the next 11-oh, 15-oh through the next 11-oh, 15-0 through the next 11-0. Through the next 11, 15 through the next 11, 15 through the next 11. So you'll continue that all the way around. When you get to the last 11-0 that you're going through, go through the 15, the next 11-0, and then you're going to poke your needle right down through to the back. What we're going to do is then we're going to move our needle to the outside so that we can start adding this outer rim of peyote stitch. So now that you've finished that inner row and you've put your thread through the bottom, I put it up through the edge here, and we're now going to do the same process on the outer rim of the hammered round here. We are going to do the first row using 11-0s instead of Delicas, but it's going to be the same process. So I'm going to pick up 4 11-0s. I'm going to lay it next to the hammered round and find the point to poke the needle through. Put it down through the bottom there. Come back up through the second and third bead. And then through those last 2 beads. So you're going to do that all the way around, just like we did on the inner circle. It's just that these are just the 11-0s. There is not a lot of backing material around the edge, and that's on purpose, because when you put the Delicas around the edge, you don't want a ton of this backing material showing. So there is not a lot here. And it'll look nice in the end. So go ahead and you're going to go around and we're going to do even counts of peyote there. So just like we did in the center, so we'll do 1 round here, then we'll step up, we'll do the next one, and then we'll add the 15-0s to the edge. When I did this outer row of 11-0s, I ended up with 12 sets of 4. You may end up with a different set of counts based on the brand of 11-0s you're using, or if there's a coating on them. As long as it's an even count, that's fine. When you start to do the next row, because you're using the same color beads, I would push those beads on top of the hammered round just to keep track of them a little easier. When you do the row after that and you add your 11-0s, it's much easier to find the little spaces in between if we push them up there. When you finish with both of those rows, including the 15-0s, you will then take your thread. You need to have about 1.5 feet to do this outer rim of these Delicas here. So if you need to add a new piece of thread, go ahead and do that like we did earlier on here. And you'll want your needle to be coming out just underneath one of the green beads. When you do that, when you're finished doing that, then you're going to glue the backing on here and just put a little bit of glue in the middle. Try not to get it around the edge. It's just a little harder to push our needle through the glue and the backing there. So when you're finished putting your 15-0s, just make certain you have about 1.5 feet of thread and put your needle out from underneath one of these green beads up here, and then glue your back on. Now that your backing is glued on and your thread is coming out from underneath this row of 11-0s, we're going to add a Delica, and we're going to go through the backer and the felt up to underneath that row of 11-ohs. And pull our thread through, and then we're going to go in through the back side of that Delica again, and we're going to pull it up so that the hole is facing outwards. We'll pick up another Delica. We'll go next to it, through the backing and through the felt. We'll pull our thread through. We'll go up through the back of that Delica again. And you see that the holes are facing out. We'll pick up another Delica. We'll go up through the back. Pull our thread through. And we'll go up through the back of that Delica. And we end up with the hole up here. If you do it backwards, the hole won't be facing up that way, and then so just undo it and try. Once you get used to the thread movement, it'll make sense. It just may take a couple of tries. So we'll go to Delica, up through the back, pull that through, and then up through the back of that Delica, so that it's facing out. Delica, push through the back. Oops, there we go. We'll go up through the back of that Delica and then pull up. You see how the holes are all facing upwards. So you're going to do that all the way around until you come back to where you started, and then I'll help you through the next section here, and then we'll add our wire guard. I added my last Delica, and I'm coming out the top. Now I'm going to go down the first Delica that we added, and then across and back up the last Delica that we just added. So go down the first one, and then up the last one that we just added, and then just to reinforce it, we're going to go down the next to the last one that we added, and then up the third to the last one that we added. Now we're going to add our wire guard. So we'll pick that up. We'll go through that. And then we'll go through the Delica next to. And then we'll reinforce, so we'll go back up the Delica that we originally put our wire guard on. Through the wire guard, back down, through that Delica, move our thread, there we go. And then we're going to pick up just a little bit of our backings. We're going to go through that and go out the front of the earring. Then what you'll do is you'll take your thread and go through, weave it in and out some of these 11-ohs until you feel that it's secure. Then you'll snip off the thread or burn off the thread there, and you'll add your earring wire. And then you have a pair of hammered embroidered earrings. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and I hope you join us again for future Potomac bead videos.